The Seattle Seahawks bring a familiar face back into the building as Drew Lock, the man with a hose for an arm, returns to Seattle for his second stint, signing a 2-year, $5 million deal. Lock was part of the Russell Wilson big bundle of picks and players that you're able to pull back from the Denver Broncos coming into Seattle. A lot of people thought initially he was going to be your starter for Seattle at that time. Geno Smith, of course, was a little bit further past him, a little bit better as a player, and Geno was able to win that job, stay secured with it over his couple of years' time here in Seattle. There was a couple of games that was started by Drew Lock, where he came out against the San Francisco 49ers on the road against the Niners at kind of the height of their powers in recent history and was not able to take them down. Seattle really did try to kind of keep him inside a box, playing from within the position in that game, not having him really try to push the ball down the field. The big thing you worry about with Drew sometimes is him getting a little bit too wild with it. He likes to buzz the towers like Maverick and Top Gun at times, and that can get him a little bit into trouble. But into the second game he played, in that little stint there where Geno was injured for a hot minute there, then he came back into Philadelphia, beat that Eagles team on the road with a comeback from behind win in the fourth quarter on a beautiful throw to Jackson Smith and Jigba at the end of that game. And then that year, at the end of the season, he went out in free agency looking for an opportunity to start because Geno was pretty embedded here as that starter. Goes to New York, sees Daniel Jones is there, and he goes, hey, I can beat Daniel Jones out. Now, it took him about half the year to get it done, and let's face it, the Giants were really committed to trying to make the Daniel Jones experience work in New York, but he was able to overtake it eventually there. Unfortunately for Drew Lock and all of that talent that he tempts that once made him a former second rounder, he's got the big arm, he can be very accurate, make every NFL throw. And then he also does provide some real functional mobility from the position in addition to that. But yet you just can't ever seem to get him tapped out to topping into that upside that he promises. And that very much was still the case there with New York, as you see some of the same old kind of factors rising up into play. Now, this is the New York Giants. Would any quarterback in that environment be successful? I don't think so with how it's been kind of aligned up there in recent history. But he did get one game at the end of the season against the Indianapolis Colts where threw for well over 300 yards, 4 touchdown passes, showing off that upside that he does tantalizingly tempt at times. It is there. It is real. And had a great game, but then comes back the very next week against the Eagles, a team at that time in the final game of the season that may have not been playing for a whole hell of a lot and wasn't able to do much against them. Comes back to much more of the typical performance that he showed against with the New York Giants throughout the year last year. So he comes back to Seattle now on that 2-year, $5 million deal, firmly embedded as a backup quarterback in this league. But this is a good signing from a Seahawks perspective of things. Quality backup quarterbacks, and I'm not talking A-level quality backup quarterbacks, but a solid B to B-plus level quarterbacks in this sport that are backups who have started games in the NFL, they're going to command actually a little bit of money, especially on those kind of 1-year type of deals or even 2-year type of deals. So Marcus Mariota last year, I believe, was like a 1-year, $8-9 million deal for Washington in order for him to come in there and help out with Jaden Daniels as the backup. So getting this in at this price is really good from a Seahawks perspective, as this guy's still a lot of talent that he brings, and there's no telling when that upside is realized, when that light bulb does come on. This is also going to be a little bit of an indicator that Sam Howell is probably not long for the Seattle world. And when I went to training camp practice last year and watched a couple of those practices with Howell on the field, not only did it stand out that there was a sizable difference between him and Geno Smith and how they played the position and how good they were as players, but he was just completely lost in the sauce. He was not able to really feel pressure when it was around him, and then he started feeling the pressure a little bit too much. His passes were all over the place. I mean, sometimes he wouldn't be within 15 yards of the receiver down the field on some of his throws. The accuracy was just not good, and then he didn't even have the velocity I thought would be there. When you watched Geno throw and you watched him throw, big difference in the velocity, and that was something new that you're supposed to get with Sam Howell, is a little bit of that extra arm. It's not a grade A arm. It's not even a Drew Lock hose arm, but it's supposed to be a pretty good arm, and you just didn't feel that from him in training camp. Then we go through the whole season with Geno starting. Sam comes out onto the field against the Green Bay Packers and completely throws up all over himself. I mean, he looks like a guy that doesn't even look like an NFL caliber quarterback, say nothing of being a quality backup in this league. He looked lost. This didn't look like a guy who had started a whole season with the Washington Commanders the prior year. Looked like a rookie quarterback starting his first game. And if Seattle's getting more of those indicators here throughout this past, year with Sam and going, wow, yeah, he's not developing, and indeed he's regressed in a lot of ways, then this move makes a lot of sense as you've now increased and really moved the floor up of your backup position. Maybe you were hoping a little bit with Howell that there was this upside that would exist there, but you're getting some more certainty here now with Locke, and that there's not going to be that huge drop off if you have to go to it from Sam Darnold. And in Howell, Seattle probably looks at this point to, if not outright release him, move him for like a 6th or a 7th round pick and then just keep it moving at that. He was going into the final year of his rookie contract. He's going to make about $1 million. Seattle can get out of that for nothing now at this point. I don't expect they're probably going to keep him, but I do think that this is an indicator they're going to ride with Locke instead of going with Sam Howell. And finally on this, I think the last thing this does indicate is that it lowers much more, I think, the chances of the Seahawks looking to take a quarterback early in this draft. Not that they won't still maybe take a quarterback, but that they're just not as much likely now to take a quarterback early in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round, as I think with Drew Lock having the 2 years on this deal versus Sam Howell only having the 1 year left on his deal, it doesn't push as much of that urgency to get this thing addressed, as you've got your quarterback room pretty well set for a bare minimum 2 seasons here as it stands right now, with 2 very qualified guys to get the job done and what you're going to ask them to do, especially now within an offense which is not going to be super pass heavy, but it's going to have a lot more maybe run heavy nature to it. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be like 55 run, 45 pass, but you're just going to be a lot more closer to balance and less on the quarterback's shoulders than we've seen here in recent history over the past 3 years. So I look at this as a good deal all the way around. You improve the position, you recognize Sam Howell's just not going to make this go, and you also take yourself away from taking a quarterback early in this draft. And when you look at a quarterback class that's not a good quarterback class, said by everybody all across the board, no matter the pundit, no matter the insider, you don't want to be picking a quarterback high in a class that everybody's looking at as not a quarterback draft. If there's already a little bit of a shaky roll of the dice going and taking a quarterback early, it gets much more a roll of the dice when those are the conditions at play as you enter into the draft. And you better believe those are the conditions that enter at play into this particular draft. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.